They've taken Smith Rowe and El Neni squad numbers off the website.
Have they? Okay,
Yeah.
well, we've just gone live. We have gone live, and welcome to the Clock End Talk and Arsenal podcast. I'm just waiting for a few people to pop up and go, hey, they've gone live, because we've gone early. I scheduled for another, it was meant to be 20 minutes, but I feel sorry for these buggers in over the UK, rubbing their little eyeballs and drinking their little coffee, trying to stay awake. So I'll try and get it out as early as we can, but let's bring him in. Tony, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, all good. As you said, we have to stay up late because you can't be asked to record at a normal time. But beyond that, yeah, can't complain.
Can't complain. And we have Jack. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Good, mate. Good. I didn't catch the game this morning. It wasn't until I was talking to Tony and I went, oh, shit, that's right. We had a game. I didn't even know where to watch it, but Tony said it was on YouTube. But you did watch it, Jack.
Yeah, no, I did watch the game. It was a weird one. So we put out a mixture of like first teamers. In the first half, it was all first teamers more or less. Second half, we had a lot more of the kids to play. It seemed very much like a game to kind of judge fitness and whatnot. And to be honest, I think they showed that quite well. I think it seemed as though if we had played like a friendly after like a winter break sort of thing, we were positive. I thought our work rates were good. We held a shape well. There were quite a few positives. I mean, I get it was only MK Dons, but after not playing for 3 or 4 weeks, we still look sharp, or at least sharp enough that we can not struggle with having only a few days now until the Community Shields. And I thought people like Saliba looked strong for his first game. He looked very composed on the ball, had a lot of pace, which I was quite surprised about. And unlike normally a player of his age, he's very well, it seems like, bulked out. So his physicality, especially to deal with like a EFL team, he didn't seem phased at all. And another one who I thought stood out was probably Tierney. I mean, some of the balls he was making and some of the runs were just absolutely superb. I mean, I get it. We played against a League One team, but after not playing for 3 or 4 weeks, he didn't look sluggish at all. If anything, he looked just as fit as he did when we played Chelsea in the cup final.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I had that thing muted. El Neni, I did see the highlights of that. It was a fucking screamer.
I mean, it was an open goal. Let's not get carried away.
Bring on El Neni. Come on.
I mean,
like,
I'm very happy cashing in.
Yeah, I am too. Look, but I did see a few people, oh yeah, El Neni's back. Look out. But yeah, no, I think he'll be on the way. Tony, you caught a little bit of the game, mate?
Yeah, I watched the first half, which, as Jack said, was mainly the first team, and I think it was after 9 minutes we were 2-0 up and all looking too easy, obviously. And then his goal was from a mistake from them. The second goal was really well worked. Pretty much started out from the back. Saliba played his part, Cedric played his part. Great cutback from Saka. And the only amount of times I watched Saka and think he's chose the wrong option, and then it's not. Like, you're looking at it, and anyone that's seen it, you're thinking just square it to Aubameyang. He's got to tap in. It's a slightly harder ball, but it's an almost guaranteed goal. But then he picks out the cutback that didn't seem the obvious ball, and then he scores. And I think after that we kind of shut off a bit. We didn't do too much going forward. As I was watching the game, and I know it's a friendly inside, this is not criticism, I understand it. As I was watching it, I was thinking that Aubameyang cannot be asked today. Like, he doesn't want to be there. Looking through Twitter after, so I watched the first half and then I went out, I had somewhere to go. I actually drove past the ground as the game was on, and drove back past the ground just after the final, so I couldn't be asked to hang around. But yeah, as I looked through Twitter after the game, a few people thought the same, but he looked fit. I don't think fitness, usually you look at pre-season, you look at who's fitted and who is, in terms of, this team's had a bit more preparation, or this team looks more ready to start the season. I don't think that's really going to come into it, because they've only had, 3 weeks and a day since we beat Chelsea, or 3 weeks and 2 days. So they've only had sort of two and a bit weeks off, and these guys are so fit that there's not much fitness they can lose in that time. I mean, they might lose 1 or 2% sharpness, and then they can build that back up. But there'll be no excuse for with being unfit. And because players these days know they have to get back into that shape when they come back, they'll do stuff in them 2 or 3 weeks off that they wouldn't do during a season, but they're not going to go and eat McDonald's every day and come back a stone overweight. Even if they had a whole pre-season, they don't do that. If you listen to a lot of ex-pros, they say basically modern day players are never unfit. They don't let themselves go in the summer. So looking at the first team players that I saw in the first half, they all looked good and ready, and well, not ready for the season, but not too far off. They all look sharp. As I've seen the highlights of the second half, Reece from the highlights looked really sharp. I think it's going to be a big year for him, especially if he's to stay at Arsenal, because I think this is a kind of make or break year. But yeah,
I'll touch on Reece a little bit later in the show, but you just talk quickly. You're saying they look sharp and fitness, and you look, let's face it, it's a short off season because we're in a world of unknown. But fatigue comes to mind when you were talking there. You a little bit worried about that?
No, not really. Not at this stage anyway. I think fatigue this season is going to be a big problem because teams have got games every 3 days pretty much every week because of the scheduling with the cups in Europe and whatnot. But yeah. I mean, I don't think that comes into sort of later in the season, that worry. And I mean, that's why I think teams are going to need bigger squads. So a lot of the signings that people might think are a bit weird that teams are making, I kind of understand. Also, I mean, it'd be a great help if we get a piss poor Europa League group and we can send some not so strong players, or we can get it done, win the first 2 games and sort of have a bit of spare time in the pocket so we can rest players whenever we've got hard fixtures coming up.
Just to add there quickly, with what you say about like the playing 3 games a week, the only thing which they have done to accommodate that to help a bit is it seems like when the European competitions actually start, we would have had a nice 5 or 6, maybe I think we'll even 7 games to kind of play ourselves into our stride a bit. So they're not just chucking us all straight in the deep end like they did with the restart. They are phasing stuff in gradually, a little bit more gradually, which I do think will help. But just quickly as well, did you find it strange that Ainsley played?
I don't know what's going on there, especially when you look at like Balogun was left out, Greenwood was left out, like sort of completely they didn't travel, and then Ainsley starts, and I don't know what was going on. And just one thing I wanted to touch on before we go on to Ainsley or whoever else. You said about Saliba's size. I want to know what that kid eats. It's ridiculous. Like, okay, like you can have 19-year-olds at 6'4". Like, no problem. I've got mates that were 6'4" at 16. But what the fuck does he eat? Like, you don't look at him and go, 18, 19.
I remember. Do you remember at Watford away this season? Right, it was quite early on, and I remember Saliba was sitting about 6 or 7 rows behind me, and I was thinking about it today. I'm a year older than Saliba. I'm 20. And I mean, not only did he not seem that big, but B, you wouldn't think he's a kid. Like he looks as if he genuinely looks as built as a 26, 27-year-old Premier League footballer. But like a lump, not like a skinny one. I'm talking like Kolasinac level build.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put him on Kolasinac level. I don't think anyone is. But yeah, it's just you're not that big at that age. It's not normal. Like he makes everyone, because of his stature. It's not just height, as you said, his width and his stature. He makes everyone else look small, even if they're an inch or so shorter. Just the total size of him, he just looks fucking massive.
Like I also,
boys, it was a hit out last night or this morning, wherever you were watching in the world. The one thing that I did notice is same old. I'll quote one of our another podcast where it's same old Arsenal. We did concede 1 goal against MK Dons, and everyone's going, "Oh fuck, here we go again." We're not worried about that, are we? This early in the pre-season,
it was a fantastic goal by Rob Holding. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It was a great header.
That's all I took out of it. It was a little bit of a friendly. Boys got the blood pumping, and happy days. We move on, and we've got obviously the Community Shield. Is it in 4 or 5 days' time?
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, so that game will be more of a where are we at? But I still think it's too early. Like, and we'll get on to the title of this podcast. Where is Gabriel? I feel like, right, where the fuck is Gabriel? Because like it's like where's Wally? I don't know if you boys seen on Twitter during the week, but there's some I've seen. I think he done a Snapchat or something or an Instagram story, and it had the clouds in the background, and people are trying to work from the clouds, and it's just gone on and on and on all week. I've never seen, well, I probably have seen, but I don't remember a player that Arsenal's going to sign that's probably the worst kept secret, Tony.
It's just embarrassing. Like, I know some people get really into it, and I'm not going to criticize. Actually, I'm going to criticize the people that are doing it. What are you doing? Like, oh, the cloud there is the same cloud as in Hertfordshire. Oh, he's like, and I remember actually as this whole thing come up, because one of the main things everyone going, all right, it's in the middle of a V class or a Mercedes Viano, V class Viano, whatever you want to call it. And I remember a few years ago, I can't remember who it was, but they, I said, there was a player that people were like, oh, we're going to sign, or is it done yet? And I said, I know he's been to the training ground because Arsenal used to rent. So my dad works for a company that has like 200 of them cars, and Arsenal used to rent them off them for like a cab service, essentially, or a chauffeur service. And occasionally, obviously, Arsenal always book in a fake name, or they'll just book it in the club's name. So you know you're doing a job for Arsenal, but you don't know if you're going to pick up Thierry Henry or the tea lady. But if it's a driver we know pretty well, obviously knows we're Arsenal fans and mental, they'll message and say, oh, I've just picked up such and such and taken them to the training ground. And I remember saying a few years ago, oh, yeah, whoever it was, has definitely been to the training. And I got hammered. Oh, how would you know that? No way you could possibly know that. Oh, just because someone you know has a car that you think you know everything. And then fucking fast forward 2 years and people are saying, oh, I know he's there because I saw the clouds.
I know. It's
Didn't they tap into the cameras on the M1?
Yeah, that was after. That was
the actual
that was on Monday. On Friday was the
oh,
picture.
they're watching cars.
It was like on Friday, that picture, you could recreate that pretty much anywhere in the world. Like, is he in the front seat? No, maybe not, because you can't see a steering wheel. Or has he just taken the picture over the steering wheel? Is he in the middle row of a 7-seater? Like, that picture, you could recreate, and people have put 15 different spins on it to convince themselves he's in North London. It's like, but then they're the same people that will moan at, like, In the Nose or whatever, or accounts that think they know something and go, oh, sources, you're just guessing. And all they've done is just guessed and tried to put a bit of context behind it, and suddenly they think they're a genius.
I haven't heard so much. Probably Benzema when he was going to, or I don't even know if he was going to, but remember a few years back, more than 5-6 years ago, when some journal or something said, it's a done deal. Yeah, okay, so was it? Okay, because 2016, was it? Yeah, okay, that's who it was. So
good side of this, because Arsenal fans are fucking mental. So
fucking crazy.
Do you know why? And it will continue to get worse, because what happens is Aubameyang was like the first person they tracked the flight, and then so someone now has to go one step more because of the flight thing's been done. So they're doing the cloud analysis or the speed cameras on the traffic cameras on the M1 that showed a V class. It could have been absolutely anyone, but fuck it, let's pretend it's him because it sounds good. And then now that's been done. So next time, I don't know what the next step is, but people always have to take it a step further. They can't be content with what's been done before. It's the same thing that happens in football all the time. There's certain types of fans that go, oh, we want to see a trick. And then a player does something and they go, oh, we've seen that before. That's not fun. Try something new. And it's like, you get it. You do get that.
I know, it's crazy. Ray said Gabriel's supposed to be quarantining now. If we really signed him, shout out to Ray.
Tony, I do feel like this is something you've addressed about 30 times on recent podcasts.
Well, it is weird because Arsenal don't, like, Liverpool have had exemptions, 100%. City have had them, but even like the reports from all of the journalists are saying, oh, he's signed, he's been to the training ground, which we know on Monday, and now he's basically serving his quarantine period. It makes no fucking sense to me, because I put a tweet out, I think it was last week, with a list of names that people will probably never have heard of unless they like boxing, who are all boxers in the last 3 or 4 weeks, or no, it was just that week, who have come from countries with the no travel corridor, that have all been granted, it's called elite athlete exemption. And some of them are really low brow boxers that maybe made 15k for their fight, maybe 20k. And then their team, so their cut man, who at most is making $1,000. And then and that's elite athlete exemption. So then you've got a footballer who's being paid roughly around 30 million euros transfer fee, at least 60 grand a week in wages in pounds, a sign-on fee, and suddenly Arsenal aren't applying for the elite exemption. I don't.
Yeah, but then
I don't get it.
On top of that,
like I said,
on top of that,
it for their whole squad.
I'm just
so on top of that, we've got an international break. We've got an international break in what, a week or two. I'd say probably 80% of the Premier League players are going to be going to countries that are blocked on that list. Because if you think about it, France is a write-off, Spain is a write-off, Holland is a write-off. Most of the main footballing European countries are written off in terms of a quarantine. And on top of that, but then the Premier League starts a few days later, so you can't have a 2-week quarantine there. But then on top of that as well, like the only logical explanation I can see for this is that they're using the quarantine to try and underplay the media a bit, because then how come the whole of the City squad and the City squad didn't have to quarantine when they went to?
Yeah, that's what I mean when I said City have had it for multiple players. And I don't know if it might have been noticeable to some people, that the players have come back to training and Arsenal barely released any pictures, which is not like them. There's usually a ton of stuff released when the players come back, videos, behind the scene training sessions. I mean, obviously they show 5 minutes of what they want you to see. They're not going to show the full training session, but it's been surprisingly quiet on that front. So
apparently they were doing staggered arrivals in terms of
but they're still training together.
The Manchester United, they signed a bloke week or so, 2 weeks ago. That Greek bloke, did he have to quarantine?
Who?
Oh, that bloody.
There's no quarantine from Greece.
Was it Liverpool?
Liverpool left back. No, yeah, there's no quarantine from Greece, and they've got exception from their whole event.
That Milner video was hilarious. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
When he screams at him, he basically screams like for fuck's sake, Costas, because he misplaces a pass, and it was caught up on their cameras for the highlights.
No, I was just trying to think of players that have come in that that obviously are going through a similar thing that we are apparently, but.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. As I said, the boxers I listed on the tweet, and I can't remember all of them off the top of my head. I can't remember.
Hang on, didn't recent
to list names here, but they've all been granted it. United, City have been granted it to come back from Lisbon. Liverpool have been granted it to come back from their tour for their whole squad, but for some bizarre, unknown reason, Arsenal can't
get a player over.
We have though, because Reece and Joe were in Spain a week and a half ago.
Where was El Neni? Where was El Neni?
Was in El Neni. I think was in Turkey, which is fine. But Spain's
a blacklist. A couple of weeks ago to ask where Aubameyang was going, and everyone said Italy, which is fine. But he'd been away before that, and no one seems to. The reason I asked, because I assumed it would probably be France, because obviously I know he plays international football elsewhere, but he's French. And I wondered if it was there, because then he would have had to isolate, which we know he hasn't, or quarantine, which we know he hasn't. So it's all a mess, because and a lot of them did, but unless every Premier League player went on holiday to Greece, which is obviously where Harry Maguire got caught up, and as I said, a lot of them did go to Greece, then they basically couldn't have holidays, because a lot of the corridors are the normal places that players go, Marbella, Ibiza, a lot of the Caribbean, you can't go to, all of Asia, basically, you can't go to, Australia, America, you can't go to. So unless they all went to Greece or Turkey, then they've got exemptions. So the whole situation is weird. I mean, I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. As I said, I can name boxers, maybe because I'm into boxing, that are not of very much money. They're only paid per fight, and they're nobody boxers. Like, they're people that even that I would say as a huge boxing fan I've never really heard of, or I've heard the name, but they walk past me in the street I wouldn't know, and they've got exemptions. And then, as I said, this £30 million footballer, or €30 million, is suddenly having to hide somewhere. I mean, they said that even for his medical, he had to be under strict, they had to make sure the building was empty. He was under strict medical guidance, like you can go in this room and talk to this person, and then you go in this room and then go to that person. Kunte, you're saying foolish chat, he's an Arsenal player already. One, I completely agree with you. I think he is already an Arsenal player. Two, you're talking absolute shit because you don't know he is. You just assume he is the same as me. Three, it's not foolish chat because we're being told he has to quarantine, which is what we're talking about. We're not talking about won't we sign him. We're talking about why apparently he has to quarantine and the rest of the world doesn't. So shut the fuck up.
There you go. Thanks, Conti. Can't.
Name's nearly right.
Okay. Okay. So you said I think the same. Gabriel's for me. We are signing him. Jack. There's lots of noise coming out. Definitely happening, mate.
I mean, it seems that way for what everything says in the media, for sure. I mean, I think it'd be. Look, I really like the idea of having two of the most promising up and coming young centre backs in football at Arsenal to grow and develop together. I can't see any negative. I mean, I watched a couple of games for Maguire last season, and he looks solid. He looks great on the ball. He's got a great level of strength to him. He's got a nice little kick of pace. He does look like a very, very, very good centre back. However, you never know with the Premier League. I mean, and even in England, because the way English football is so different to any other league. I mean, Saliba today fitted in to an English game, which I didn't think he would in the way that he did necessarily, like fit with his physicality. And I think Gabriel looks the same sort of mould that could come in and do that as well. And I think, but the only thing is, I think even though we're going to have this new look defence, which everyone's hyping, we also need to realise these guys are young and they will make mistakes, because we don't want our fan base to see them make one mistake, start hounding them like they like to do, and then completely demoralise them. And we've got to stay patient because we do have.
That'll happen. That'll
No,
happen,
obviously, but we do have the potential here to build a really successful long-term defence.
I agree with
which
you.
We haven't had for a long term.
Yeah, totally. And I'm excited that we've actually gone for two young centre backs. And I think I said it in a chat the other day on our WhatsApp that it's great to have these two young guys that we can keep for and build for the next couple of seasons. I'm going to play devil's advocate just a little bit though, and because there was a couple of people that were saying, yeah, but just be careful because we've got young centre backs coming in who aren't Premier League ready. And I'll be honest, I'm sick of the whole Premier League ready. Let's find a Premier League player who's played in the Premier League. So I'm excited, but I am just going to put a spin on devil's advocate and get your boys' thoughts on, yeah, okay, these guys have never played together in the Premier League. They've never played together to start with. So is that a bit of a concern for you? I'll go to you, Tony.
Yeah, no, not for me. I mean, you're looking at young, proven centre backs. Someone's going to take the chance on them, or do we not take the chance on them for all the reasons you've just said? And then someone buys him next year and pays, and they do amazing, and then suddenly they're worth £75, and it's another one in that we nearly signed him list. I think that if they don't work, the stick to beat him with is going to be exactly what you just said. But a lot of these criticisms come out in hindsight. So when someone's not good, it's like, I knew they weren't going to be good. They're not proven here, blah, blah, blah. When they're great, no one ever says that. No, you never hear anyone go, oh, yeah, we wouldn't have taken a chance on Van Dijk because the Scottish League's a bit shit. Or no one now says, oh, yeah, I don't think Tierney's going to adapt to the Premier League. Like, do you know what I mean? But had he been shit, that would have been the excuse. And the same with Van Dijk and the same with probably a million other players. So you hear it as a criticism when people either don't want to sign that player or when that player's signed and he's bad. But it's just one of them retrospective things. And I think sometimes there's chances, there's a lot of times there's chances worth taking. And when you look at the numbers, I mean, there is concerns about both of them. But they're young and they can improve. And if you look at our defenders anyway, and this is nothing against them, that a lot of them make errors. And I'd rather have young guys that make errors and you think they're going to have a chance to improve on that and take them out of their game, rather than having, again, I think this guy's criticised way more than he should be, but rather than having someone like Luiz, who you know he's going to make errors and you also know he's not really going to improve from it because he's been doing it for however many years. And that's not me trying to stick the boot into Luiz, because as I said, I think he's criticised a hell of a lot more than he probably should be.
Jack, is it Jixie HD? Just asked thoughts on Saliba's debut, mate.
No, as I said before, I think he was solid. I think his strength was quite remarkable. He was good on the ball. He showed a lot of composure. He was, I didn't think he put a foot wrong. I think it was promising. I mean, to be thrown into a game at any level in England when you've never played football here and you've only played in the French league, although it was a League One team we faced, to show that dominance is something which was quite surprising in a very positive way. And I think we can only grow with that. And similar to what Tony was saying about Luiz, is that it's so true, because if you look at even what Arteta's done with Luiz, and people say that when you're an older player, it's difficult to iron out those mistakes. And I'm not saying we have ironed out those mistakes, but we were still able to get the best out of a player who was as prone to mistakes as people say Luiz is. And look how he was in the cup final, look how he was in the semi-final. And he's put in some great performances. But the difference is with the younger guys is you can actually iron them out of them, because you can train them to play your way because they're young. It's a bit like training a puppy. And I think that with the manager Arteta, I really do think that these young boys will come through firing.
Ray, you're on YouTube. I can see there, mate. Look, I did search for highlights, so you'll be able to find it on YouTube, mate. He's wondering. He only saw pictures of today's game. He wants to see some videos, Ray. So, mate, I did search it on YouTube, and it was there. Tony, who starts for you first game of the season? We have signed Gabriel as well.
Are we thinking 3 or 4 at the back? I think 3.
I think 3. Yeah, go 3.
So then, Fulham. I think Luiz starts in the middle, Saliba on the right, and it's an interesting one with Gabriel, because if he's being, this is why I keep going on so much about the quarantine thing. If he's being made to completely isolate, no contact with anyone, the same as me or Jack would have to quarantine if we went to France, then he'd only have 4 days training before the first game. That's not enough. He can't start. So then do you move Tierney into left centre back and hope Ainsley's still at the club, or play Kolasinac or play Saka out there? So depending on the Gabriel situation is, I think, what happens. I think Saliba and Luiz are the 2 names, and then you look at the rest of them. You've got Holding, who is definitely not going to play on the left. Saying that, why is there any reason why Luiz wasn't involved today? Is he back? I mean, but there's still 2 or 3 weeks to go, so I'd expect him to be fine unless he's got an injury that Arsenal haven't disclosed. So yeah, Saliba, Luiz, and then probably Tierney, if I'm talking it right now, because as I said, Chambers is out, Mustafi's out, Socrates is basically out. Like, they don't want him there. Holding's not going to play on the left, so Mary's out. So it leaves you with KT. Like, even when I saw the team today, I was a bit surprised that KT played in a back 3. But then you look at it logically, and you think there's actually no one else that can really play there.
I think in terms of the formation, I don't know necessarily, but I think it all depends who we sign in terms of the midfield, because I think it's very clear to see that Arteta wants to play a 4-3-3. But in terms of what I was saying before about the staggered arrival,
just to butt in, everyone says that. And I've said it a million times, so I'm not criticising you. But I don't know what we're basing it on. I think we're purely basing on it on that's what he played in the first 3 or 4 weeks. But then that's what we was playing before he came, so he maybe just tried to keep the harmony.
I think
I've said it a million times, but I don't know why everyone universally goes, he wants to play 4-3-3. Why do we think that? Or why do you think that?
I think it's because he likes to keep the possession on the ball. I think the reason why he was playing it and then stopped is because we then lost, I think it was Mary, who was playing as a left-sided centre-back. And I think we weren't strong enough in the midfield at all. And I think we had to double up at the back to accommodate the issue that we had. And then obviously after almost the Xhaka-Ceballos partnership grew the way it did. But I think that if let's say we bring Partey in and he's eligible to play before Fulham, which realistically that probably won't happen because the window goes on till October. But in that situation, I think if we were to have, let's say, him and Ceballos come in and sort those 2 deals out, which are being spoken about in the media, if you have a midfield 3 of Xhaka, Partey, Ceballos, in my opinion, that puts you to a 4-3-3 straight away, because you have the protection there. I mean, in worst case scenario, you play Xhaka in that transition role when we're when we go forward, he sits back and he drops back to then allow the wing backs to go forward to then essentially create a three at the back. But
Yeah,
I don't think it's a long. I think he changed the three at the back the same way that the Wenger did towards the end, which was just to accommodate for our weaknesses. I don't think it was necessarily intentional.
I half agree and half disagree. I think he changed to a back 3 or 5 so he could play out from the back. And I don't think, and because you naturally get that spare man, and then especially with having Louise in there who can play a longer ball, and it's one of Gabriel's strengths. So if he does come in or when he does come in, but I don't think you can replace that with a 3-man midfield. So although, as I said, I've said a million times, and in my head screaming at me, yeah, he wants to play 4-3-3. I just don't really know what we're basing that on. I think the reason he changed to the 5 was to be able to play out from the back. Because let's look at it really and truly, he could have gone 4 today, no problem. We're playing a much lower league team. He could have gone KT left back, Cedric right back, obviously Saliba and Holding. Ains could have, even with the same 11, you just push Ains into midfield. Saka played on the right anyway, and you've got a 4-3-3 there. And obviously he chose not to do that. And do you just change everything with? We don't know what friendlies are being played after Liverpool. I assume there'll be at least 1, probably 2.
Isn't that there's an international break then?
Yeah, so maybe we've only got Liverpool before the start.
It's a really weird pre-season because we have after the Community Shield, don't they go straight on an international break for 2 weeks, and then they come back literally 2 days before the season starts.
Yeah, so there we go. He's almost certainly not going to play. He's going to play a back 5 against Liverpool. I'd be pretty confident in saying that. So then he's not going to back to a back 4.
I think just very quickly.
And just on quickly side, just shouting out Ray, he said the same as Tony. I agree with that, but I do see where you're coming from, Jack. With if Partey does sign,
I think realistically, I think what we'll probably do this season is when we play at home and when we play against the lower league, the lower in the league opposition, I think we could see ourselves playing a 4 at the back. But I think when we play against the big teams, that's when I think we'll play the 5 because I think, as Tony said, it allows us to create out from the back. And I mean, look at the goals we've scored doing that since we've moved to a 3. I mean, the goal against City is a prime example of that. And even today, if you look at, as you said, Eddie's goal, it again shows the same.
Boys, rocked by news. I read it yesterday that we touched on it. Maitland-Niles, he did start today. Wolverhampton are in for him for about £20 million. Thoughts on this one, Tony?
Ridiculous. For so many reasons. I mean, your people might not see Wolves as a rival, but they finished above us, and they're a good side. So you're strengthening a rival. You're weakening us in so many positions. I mean, for me, he's our, and this is for me, people will disagree. He's our best right back. He's our best right wing back. He's our second best left wing back. And that's behind Tierney, who is probably going to play at left centre back. So that makes him our best left wing back. And I mean, other people may argue Saka, but I would prefer to see Ainsley in that role if we're looking at our strong, like in the cup final. And people who in the WhatsApp group will confirm this. I said I want Ains playing there, not Saka.
I agree with you.
And then we're also losing a midfield option. I'm not saying he's
he's a midfield
3, 4,
option. So that's what I was going to say.
You're losing your best in 3 or 4 positions, or a player has options in 3 or 4 positions, and strengthening a rival. There's also a rumour that Tottenham are looking to sign Matt Doherty, which would make sense because you kind of look at Wolves and go, why do they want Ainsley in a sense? Because the way they play, they like passes in midfield, and they play Moutinho and Ruben Neves, and then the other one, Dendonker's an absolute unit. He's about 85 foot tall. So, and they don't always play Dendonker; they sometimes play him at centre back. So you're looking at where does he fit there? Well, he doesn't, and you look at so maybe they're fitting him at wing back, and then you're strengthening Wolves and Tottenham, and for £20 million, I mean, you got. I think he's worth a lot more than that, and beyond what he's worth, I wouldn't sell him anyway. As I said, I think he should be starting for us, and I hope that him playing today, especially when other people have been admitted that are looking at moves away. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't think Socrates was in the squad at all. He's obviously been linked with a move away. I know he's just had a baby, so that might be another issue. But Balogun wasn't in the squad, even though some people that are less experienced than him were. Sam Greenwood, who we obviously is quite inexperienced, but people around his age level were in the squad, but he wasn't. So I'm hoping that him playing means that there's still some chance of him staying. I also read today somewhere that there's a few teams actually trying to get him, and it's just like a bidding war sort of thing rather than it just being sold on it being Newcastle. I don't know how true that is.
Do you think because of he has been, let's face it, even Wenger there, he's been used as that utility player. You rattled off about 3 or 4 positions he can play. Does he want to focus on? I don't know the player. I'm not having a beer with the bloke. I'm wondering, like, is he sitting there thinking, "Oh, I don't want to be a utility player. I want to be a midfielder. I'm a midfielder. I've had my heart set on playing in the midfields, and it's never going to happen here at Arsenal."
I mean, it's not going to happen at Arsenal, but then, as I said, at Wolves, the thing is with Nuno, don't matter how many games they play, you can pretty much name their team before the game starts. The only issue is if they're going a little bit safer, they take out Jota and tuck someone in, or play someone a bit wider and play what's that young guy, Neto, or they play Traore up front instead of wide. Like, but their team pretty much names itself, and you know their midfield 2 is going to be Moutinho and Neves, so he's not going to play there. He's not going to start centre mid there. He'll be given a chance to impress, I guess, but I think it's very unlikely. That's whenever the press or whoever say, "Oh, the reason we want to get rid of him is because he only wants to play centre midfield." But for me, when your skill set is so strong elsewhere, any team that takes you is going to say, "Oh, can you just fill in once here?" And then they see how good you are, and it's going to be like, "Oh, actually, yeah, can you fill in again and fill in again?" And suddenly that's your position. I think when you're that good in a certain position, teams ain't gonna go, "Oh yeah, but you want to play us." Look at Theo. I mean, people don't really rate Theo, which is up to them. But he was scoring goals non-stop on the right. I mean, he scored over 100 goals for us, which is incredible. But he wanted to be a striker. He moved there. People realised, actually, no, you're not a striker. Get back on the right wing.
Well, the Ox, he was one, went to Liverpool.
Yeah, he went to Liverpool to play centre midfield. And to be fair, he's one that maybe has worked out a bit. I mean, he's still never been a starter at Liverpool, but he gets his fair amount of games and sometimes from the right, but mainly in the middle. But yeah, I just think when you're so strong in another area, you can't. I don't think any team's going to just ignore that. Go, "Oh yeah, but you want to play in the middle, so we're going to ignore every strength you have because you want to play somewhere else." And as I said, I think Theo's one that a lot of young players should look to when they're looking at this. That he finally got his way, and it basically ruined his career because he moaned that much that Arsenal let him go. Everton realised, well, you ain't a striker, and now you're getting a bit old. And now you're not even starting. If he would have been happy to stay at right wing, he'd have played a lot more games for Arsenal. I know that much.
AFC 1001 on Twitter. This is prime time to sell. He's a squad player, never been anything more. Dave, he says, "I would keep Maitland-Niles and sell Bellerin, but I think he wants to leave because because he wants to play in the midfield." As we just touched in, Ray said, "If we get rid of Bellerin, don't sell Maitland-Niles if he doesn't want to go." That's the other interesting one, Jack, and I'll go to you for your take on all this, because if Bellerin does go, there's definitely a right back up for grabs from Maitland-Niles, but it just seems to me he doesn't want to play right back.
Look, I don't normally disagree with Tony, but I actually am going to have to on this one. I think with Ainsley, I think that everything that he said up until Arteta was very much, "I want to play centre mid," and that is very evident, and he has said that in many interviews. I think that if you're a young player coming through at a club like Arsenal, you've got to take the opportunity with 2 hands and not kind of bitch around about where you want to play. I think he had the opportunity to establish himself as an amazing utility player. I think he has shown that potential, but as much as he can have a good game, he can also have a stinker. And I think yes, we've seen him improve under Arteta, but he also had a great spell under Emery and then dropped in a load of real stinkers. And I think as a club that have always complained that we never sell our players for good money, and people would look at Liverpool and see how much they sold players like Ibe and Solanke for, I think 20 million is a good number for him. Because I don't think he's that great, in my opinion, going forward in terms of his crossing ability. I mean, in the cup final, he should have assisted Aubameyang, I think, twice. And I think that with Bellerin as well, I understand the criticism he gets, but he's progressed so much under Arteta. I mean, even that run for the Aubameyang goal is something we haven't seen from Bellerin for years. And he seems like he's finally gathering the confidence to do that. And if it was me calling the shots, I'd probably sell Ainsley for 25 million, maybe not 20, and give Bellerin 1 year to prove himself with Arteta for a full season. And if he still isn't living up to what we know he can do, then you look to move him on.
He's had 8 years with us.
And in my opinion, he's been a good right back. He has had some on and off seasons. He has struggled with some injuries, but like I just think he loves the club. He's spirited, and I think how he plays as well. He plays as a fan, but also at a good level. And I think it's good to have players like that who care as much and have the Arsenal DNA and can perform at a required level. And if Arteta get the best out of Bellerin again, then we do have one of the best right backs in the league, because that is how good he is. But injuries have hampered that in the last year or two.
I'm just reading a comment that Ray, I rattled off a few players there. If we could get rid of Bellerin, Socrates, Mustafi, Kolasinac, Chambers, Holding, El Neni, Mickey, me and you spoke about that earlier, Jack. Guendouzi, Torreira, even 6 out of them, that would be great. There's a lot of deadwood there, Tony. I'd keep Chambers. Yeah, I'd keep Chambers.
Chambers was probably our best player for that 6 or 7 games before he got injured, without a doubt. I wouldn't get rid of him. I think he can fill in other roles as well. Look, even at right back, he did a great job, and no one ever respected that. He did well at centre back. He can also play in a more defensive midfield role. I personally would keep Callum out of that list, but I do agree with those.
Tony?
Yeah, no, I mean,
word on all that?
He says Chambers and then Holding in brackets. I think he just means one of the two. You've got the issue at the moment that Chambers is unsellable because he's injured. I mean, he also lists Mustafi there, who's unsellable for the same reason. Look, I disagree with Jack. I don't rate Hector at all. I just think defensively he's not up to it. And more important, when we play out from the back, I fear every time the ball goes to the right. Like I'm honestly like, we can't give. I'd rather them boot it out for a throw on or give the other team a corner. I'm that nervous when they pass to Hector. Like, and that's the way to. If you want to press us, leave everyone else. Like half shadow everyone else, and as soon as the ball goes into Hector, fucking go it in. Like because he's just technically not good enough. I'm almost at the point with Hector where, although he has his good games and he has moments where I'm pleased with him, I'm almost at the point where I would play a centre midfielder at wing back just for when we're having to play out from the back. Because even like if you look at, I think it was a City game where he made 2 horrendous mistakes and his head drops as well. You can't be the type of player that, at least with David Luiz, when he makes mistakes, and Mustafi to an extent, there's been 1 or 2 times, but in general, when they make mistakes, they seem to kind of not really give a shit. Like it doesn't affect their performance. Whereas Hector makes a mistake and you might as well sub him off. Like he gets in that mold, and I think it was a City game he gave to De Bruyne or Sterling. We was playing out from the back and he just rolled the ball across the edge of the area to one of them. I think Xhaka got a block in. And then after that, for 20 minutes, he couldn't play football. And you just can't afford to have that. But
which
yeah,
City
that's
game?
just the cup semi.
Just a couple of questions, not questions, just comments coming through on the feed, boys. Lionel says, I agree. Bellerin's a smart player, but he isn't in form at the moment. Ray says PSG's rumoured to want him. If PSG...
his agent's been offering him about, I don't know if they've got word from the club that they'll be happy to sell him, but that's where that whole story's come from. Offering him to clubs.
And the boys are talking 20. Ray said, how much you think he's worth? 25 to 30 mil. What do you boys think on that, actually?
I'd probably say Bellerin's probably. If it was Bellerin, that's a hard one. 30 to 40
Bellerin
in normal market, not in Corona times.
Would you take 30, or is that too low?
No, that's too low. He's an established.
Okay,
he's an
40?
established Premier League, right?
40?
I think in a normal market, 40.
I'd drive him. For 40, I'd drive him.
You're about 10.
Actually, in all fairness to Hector, I would look at who you're going to replace him with. Because if you let him and Ainsley go, you've got to at least get one right back in. So there's no point, unless you're going to vastly upgrade, there's no point getting sort of 30 for him if you're then going to have to spend 60 just to upgrade a little bit.
Kenny Lala would be perfect.
Who?
That Kenny Lala in France.
No idea.
He's a very, very, very good quick right back, but it's a dream. It wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I asked a few people the other day, and like for names who when the Hector rumours all started, and there's no solid names. Everyone's like, this is definitely the one he'll be able to slot right in, and blah blah blah. And you even look at, I mean, one of the rumours is PSG, and they've not got like the one Hector because they've not got a great right back with unlimited money seemingly. You look around Europe really, and Barcelona's right back. I mean, Nelson Semedo's not the best. I really rate Carvajal Real Madrid, but he's getting on a bit. He's slowing down a bit. Bayern's got the best right back in the world. But in general, I'd have Kimmich all day. I think Kimmich is the perfect footballer. But you look around, then you've got people that rated. If you were to name the top 5 right backs in the world, some people would probably put Wan-Bissaka in there, and the guy can't go forward, which you need to do in a modern game. You get football goes in cycles, and you get cycles where there's certain positions where there's just no one there. And I think that this current era, and it will only last a year or two, and then a few players will develop because that's where the gap is. But I think at this current time, there's a real lack of right back talent. So it probably isn't the time to sell Hector as much as I'm not his biggest fan.
I'm just going to throw one, look, and this is where I'm worried about a little bit, but Kyle Walker, is he out of favourite City? He's 30 now. Do you take him?
He starts every game.
You don't think he's on the outer next season?
No chance. I mean, they moved Cancelo to left back. Cancelo is probably more available, but then they'll probably
I'm just thinking someone with that age, you know what I mean? Like, that's where I worry a little bit. We seem to go for them older players. Like, nothing against David Luiz, but at the end of the day, we've got now Willon coming in. We had Czech. We had a few of these older guys, and I don't want to go down that road no more. I want these, and I can't put a name to it, but I want these younger guys like these Gabriel, Salibas and things, because hey, it's a new chapter. Like, yeah, that's my only worry. But would you? Yeah, with Walker, I don't know. I haven't seen reports or anything, but yeah.
It depends what money you're talking. He's not available, so it's pointless. But yeah, his profile's okay. Like, he can play football. He's quick, so he's got recovery pace. He can get up and down.
Danny Alves is another one that comes to mind. I don't know.
1 million years old.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm getting at. Is does that worry you? Like, you often hear that.
No.
Isn't he in Brazil at the moment, at Sao Paulo?
I got no idea
what he's doing.
Yeah, no idea. Okay, boys, there's not a lot more to take to talk about, really.
One sec, Tel. There's a Gypsy's asked the same question twice. I think he's quite keen on us answering it.
Okay.
I am sold with the Arteta project already. I'm backing him so much. The future's looking promising. Do you believe he's the man to take us forward? I'm just going to answer quickly. I said last week, and I believe you're listening, that in a way, the losing Europa League final could have been one of the best things that happened to us, because we got rid of Emery and got Arteta in. And if we do what I believe or hope that Arteta's capable of, we're going to look back at that Europa League and be very happy about it. Well, not very happy, but not too pissed off about it. This is probably a better expression. So, for me, I do think he's the man to take us forward, and I just hope I've not got misplaced confidence.
Okay,
can I ask you a question, actually? Can I ask Tony a quick question about that?
Get in line, mate. Get on the social media and ask the fucking question. Go on, buddy.
Based on the rumoured site, on like the rumoured players we're interested in potential signings. So, for example, let's say Ceballos, Partey, Aouar, or Coutinho. Obviously, we've got Gabriel and Saliba in there as well. But where do you think that puts us in terms of as a basis to potentially try and push to win a title within the next 2-3 years? Like, where do you reckon we need to add to that moving forward, or do you reckon that would more or less fix a lot of the issues we've got? Because we'd have a very physical, very strong midfield. We'd have potential for a very, very good defence. We have arguably the best striker in the league. Pepe, who has potential to really blow things up this season. And then we've got a very obviously, and then we've got someone like Willian who can play on the left, and then we've also got talent like Gabby and Saka who also could play around there. Like, do you reckon that puts us in a good stead to build, or where do you think that would put us, even for next season? Not to win the league next season, but where do you think that would place us for then?
I think it's a very solid base to build upon. I think the concern, I don't think concern's the right word, but I can't think of a better one, so I'm going to go with it, is that you mentioned with a lot of the players you spoke about, or the systems you've mentioned, potential. So I say it's a good place to build from, but I don't think they will be. But playing devil's advocate, I think Saliba could be shit. Gabriel could be shit. Martinelli might never be fit again. Saka might have just had I don't believe any of these things, by the way. Saka might have just had a hot period and he never gets to that level again. So I think that the base and on paper, it's a great place to start from. And if players reach their potential, then we're clearly heading in the right direction. Because then the trick is with football is to have a solid base, and then you only need to add one or two when a player gets old or needs to go. So you get someone who's getting a bit older or maybe a bit below the level of the rest of the team, and then you replace that one player. I mean, it's no secret that Liverpool didn't strengthen on paper, didn't really strengthen, and went from coming second to winning the league by 300 points. Guardiola, a lot of the time, he spends big when they lose the title, but then when they've won it, he tends to not do too much. He strengthens one or two positions. So I think this is what Arteta is trying to do. He's trying to build that foundation where we get to a certain level, and then it's only one or two signings to take that step up to the next level. As I said, the worry, or the only slight negative, is a lot of it is based on potential rather than... We're not in a position to sign the players that are the here and now, so we're not going to spend 80 million on the Koulibalis and them sort of players. So we're building on players that could become that, and that's the only potential downfall for me. But I understand it's exactly what I would do, but I'm just saying it doesn't guarantee success.
I mean, it fits in line with our history. Look at what Wenger did. He took all a load of unknown players in, or players with what people weren't necessarily aware of or weren't necessarily performing.
Well, and also Wenger,
and the same with Graham.
Yeah, I mean, Wenger had that base. He had the back five, including Seaman. Vieira and Bergkamp were already there. So then he added one or two. And then when they got old and were moved on a bit, obviously Anelka didn't get old, but Anelka got moved on. He brought in Henry. And it was only one or two signings a year. I think when Arteta came in, he didn't have that base. And I think this window, if you look at the signings that we're being linked with, it's basically a spine. Obviously, with Saliba was already signed, but it's coming in. Gabriel potentially, Partey. You're looking at a spine, and then he can just pick the one or two players every year that take us to the next level. So I think that's a sort of tried and tested model in football, that you get a base and then you just add one or two to every year. And I just think that's what he's trying to do. And fingers crossed, it looks like it should work, but it is relying on these players to be as good as we think they are.
MAA Gunners asked on Twitter, and I did throw out a thread just for a bit of interest to see if anyone wanted some questions at @clockn_talk. It was one that I actually was talking about this morning in the WhatsApp group. So he says, should we try and get Suarez for a year? It would be best if Lacazette leaves, and looks like Martinelli will back up for Aubameyang, but Gabby's he's out for a while, so we need some depth. And I suppose Luis Suarez, he's out of favour at Barcelona, Tony. And do you grab him for a year?
Controversial. I think Suarez is finished. Well, he's not the Suarez that everyone remembers at Liverpool.
Yeah.
No one knows the price. I know apparently, again, we're dealing with rumours that Barcelona have said they don't want him, but their president, or whatever he's called, is basically going to quit. Is basically quit tonight because Messi threw his toys out the pram for the 17th year in a row. So all of them could change. I personally, with the money he would need to be on and whatnot, I personally wouldn't take Suarez. As I said, I think he's done. We all remember this: energetic, never stop running. The class is still there, but I think the engine's gone. I think
I think the way he plays, I don't think he'd suit. I think the way he played in the Premier League and the way how he's obviously got older and how he's not digressed pace-wise and stuff in Spain, I personally don't think he'd be that great in the Premier League if he came back. I think he'd
I
be
agree.
lethal, but not. Yeah, I don't think he'd be lethal in front of goal, but he wouldn't be. In terms of his all-round play, it just wouldn't be there, in my opinion, at all. I wouldn't do that.
If you're talking about the Suarez the last year of Liverpool, I think any fan of any team in the world would bite your hand off. But we're talking about the Suarez of 2020 Barcelona, and yeah, for me, people agree, which is fine, but I think he's done.
Who would you sign then instead as a backup striker if Lacazette went, or would you put the money into someone like Zaha to play out wide? Like what would you? Who is there that's like an experienced striker that wouldn't be? Do you know what I mean? Like that will fit that mold? Because I can't think of any.
Yeah, I mean, I actually asked this question in the group chat last week, and a couple of people said Edouard from Celtic. I can't see. I think actually on here we was talking about it, and a few people in the comments said Edouard. Again, it goes down that potential route. I can't particularly see it, but also again, another one I can't see is the Moussa Dembele Lyon's one that scored twice against City. Lyon have said they're selling him, so again, I wouldn't. I don't know, not for me.
I don't think we could afford to go on of a more of a younger sort of backup, because let's say, God forbid, Aubameyang did his cruciate in the first game of the season, or just after the window ends. Do you want to rely on an unproven striker, or like, because it's the same as
but that's what I mean.
in a way.
If you're looking at Edouard or Dembele, you're looking at not big name players, but I wouldn't call them young sort of unknowns. And on the flip side of it, I mean, your suggestion, and I really like Wilfried Zaha. But your suggestion of would you go and spend it on the Zaha? Same question. If Aubameyang gets injured against Fulham, who the fuck plays up front? Then you're going Pepe might be able to play there, Zaha might be able to play there. But you're going even more unproven than you in other areas to do it.
Would you tempt Chelsea with like a £5 to £10 million bid for Giroud?
He can't come back.
I've seen somewhere up top, and I can't find it anymore. But I don't know if someone's taking the piss or something. They mentioned Wilfred Bonny. I just can't.
They were just singing the Wilfred Bonny song.
Ah, okay. Where is he now? He's just disappeared.
I got no idea, but he's gone viral, I think, on TikTok.
Is that what's going on?
Social media thing or something.
Have you seen Lewandowski's? I haven't got TikTok. I've seen people post videos on Twitter before anyone abuses me for being a 14-year-old child. But have you seen Lewandowski's? Like, the guy's probably he would win the Ballon d'Or if it was on. I don't think there's too many doubts about that. And he's just done some ridiculous TikToks. They're quite funny.
Now the Boney ones, so the way TikTok works is basically people do stuff over like a song or something. So for some reason, it's not actual Wilfred Boney himself who's gone viral. Just everyone's using the "Come on, Wilfred Boney, score some goals for Swansea" is like a song. But in terms of footballers and TikTok, the best is probably Alphonso Davies. His are very, very unique.
Have you seen Lewandowski?
Yeah, they're ridiculous. Isn't there one when he's like doing something with like doing kick-ups in a ping pong with his wife or something?
Okay, so I've got to get TikTok for the clock end talk. I'm just putting a note there now. Someone did say he's. I don't even know the name of that fucking club. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it.
I think it's Al Ittihad.
Okay, I'll let you go.
Sure.
Yeah, I got no idea. Al Ittihad Club. Okay, I don't know.
We could try and tempt Barca though with Guendouzi plus $5 million for Messi. I mean, I'm not sure what they say to that, but you never know.
I think. Look, mate. We'll talk about it this morning in the WhatsApp group, and Tony said he reckons he'll be there at the end of the window. Oh, look, I reckon he will be, but yeah, I reckon he will be, but he'll get what he wants. It's just interesting, isn't it? I almost think he should have left. If he was going to leave, he should have gone when Ronaldo left a few years back,
There's also, just to make the story even more boring about Messi, there's also a dispute anyway if he wants to leave, because he's got this agreement that he can leave, but he has to trigger it before June the 10th, and he only triggered it today. And so Barcelona was saying we could potentially go to court over it. He's saying, obviously, the season, June the 10th wasn't the end of the season. The end of the season was now, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I don't think he's going to leave anyway. The president's quit or been sacked, whatever way you want to look at it. And even if he does, there's a whole legal issue. Just one thing before we go too deep on Messi or anything else. AFC 1001 asked, Kolasinac has just had a kid. Do you think it influences desire to leave safely? Given the whole thing with Ozil last year, and the only real rumour for him is Schalke. That's almost like going back home for him. I know he's Bosnian, but obviously came to us from Schalke. Feel safer there?
I don't know.
I would assume so.
I don't know. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it was that attack literally happened like 3 roads from me. It was mad. So, funnily enough, just a little bit of off topic. It's just quite funny. They tried to.
Hang on, boys. I don't even know what you're talking about. So,
do you know?
I don't know how many listeners are there. Yeah.
When Ozil and Kolasinac, when they got mugged at like knife point.
Oh yeah, the mug. Okay, cool about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, bit of a funny story. So basically, the way these mopeds work is that they look for they look at cars and stuff, and they try and like target anyone they can see. So they actually tried to go for my dad first, and there's a CCTV footage of my dad chasing them out of our roads. And then literally 5 minutes later, the same guys got found Ozil Kolasinac because Kolasinac lives like I'd say 8 roads or so away from me. And yeah, so they followed them up. It happens the whole time, but
so that's
I don't think they.
Well, that's what Tony's saying. Is he? Like, they don't feel safe anymore now. Will he go back because
I don't think I don't think safety is an issue. I think it was an unlucky attack. I mean, I understand Ozil had his house targeted or something after with because a mafia group who went to do something got intimidated. He had Turkish security. I remember reading in the press or something. But Kolasinac, nothing's happened to him since. I don't think he's worried about his safety at all, because if that was the case, we would have known about it by now, considering it's been 13 months.
His missus moved back to Germany. I assume she's back now, but when it first happened, she moved back to Germany. I don't think he's worried about safety, but I'm just answering the question. I think if safety is the prime concern, he'd be more than happy in Germany. As I said, it's not like going to a new place and rebuilding. It's somewhere there. I don't know how long he was at Schalke, but he was there long enough that it's second nature to him. It's not going to a new place with new people where everything's unknown.
I got to be honest though, I don't really like the idea of loaning out any first team players unless there's an obligation to buy the next year, because I think we need to reinvest.
It's a really weird one because we're overpaying him for sure, but they're talking about Schalke only wanting to pay half his wages with no fee, with no loan fee. And I hate, and I've said it with Ozil as well, and I know everyone disagrees with me, I hate the idea of paying someone to be elsewhere. Like, I don't see it as 40, like say he's on 90 grand a week and we pay 45 and they pay 45. I don't see it as 45 grand a week saved. I see it as pissing 45 grand a week off a wall.
Especially now when they've relaxed financial fair play, so we don't need to worry about that with the wages.
Yeah, it's just the way I've always looked at it. I really don't like it. And as I said, there'll be people disagree. I would be happy for him to go on full wages, if I'm honest, or be sold. Like if we could get a fee for him to sell him. But I really don't like this. As I said, I just don't like the whole concept of people like saying we've saved money by getting rid of half his wages when you're actually paying a geezer half his wages to be elsewhere.
Lionel, he says he hopes Guendouzi stays and fights back, and I'm just going to answer that very quickly because I know when Granite give you guys the bird, when he walked off the pitch in the shits, that probably upset a lot of fans with Granite. But the problem with Guendouzi, when you grab another player around the throat, that just doesn't sit right with me.
That's not even the problem. It's the money comment to me. Like with Granite, the difference is he was an experienced player. Although he got stick, everyone knew what he could bring to the team. Thing is with Guendouzi, he's a kid. He's telling a player that he will never earn the same money that he will, which for records is bollocks because Morpay is actually earning more than him. And to refuse to even apologise, like how dare you have that attitude at this age? Like, we've brought you from the second division of French football to the Premier League. You've hit the ground running, fair enough. But at the end of the day, he doesn't score goals. He's not a box to box. He's not that creative. He's not a defensive midfielder. He doesn't have a speciality. So I'm sure he could be a good footballer, but he's not for right now. And if you're going to have that attitude at this age and refuse to apologise to your team and your manager, I'm sorry, but you can leave. Because all we were doing is creating a burden
Yeah.
to the club, when at the end of the day, we could get 30, 40 million for him because of his potential.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I brought up the Granite thing, because I thought, well, people are probably going to get the shits, of what I said with the Granite. But Guendouzi, I don't want nothing to do with the kid. I don't want him in the Arsenal team.
It's funny, I don't like Guendouzi, and everyone that listens regularly knows that. But I disagree with a lot of what you both just said. Couldn't care less about putting his hands around the player. I've seen it a million times before. Don't care. Wanted to win the game. Don't care about the money comment. I don't know why people pretend to be outraged if they knew how often that went on. Like, every time a good player gets a hard tackle that could injure him, they tell someone, be careful, you can't even afford to pay my insurance.
Yeah, but they're not 19 or 20.
I couldn't care less. If it happens on a football pitch, there's no age. I literally don't care about that. What you said about the apology is the only bit in falling out with everyone, in falling out with players and Arteta. That's the issue. And from my point of view, I don't particularly rate him. But in terms of attitude, the stuff on the pitch that we saw, I have absolutely no problem with. It happens, I'd say, multiple times per game. But for some reason, people wanted to make a fuss out of that.
I just think it's because he's a kid, mate, and they're little bad sportsmen. Like, you're throwing your toys out of the pram.
Just on the flip side of it, how many times have I said on here, when you play well, I don't want to hear you say, I played well for an 18-year-old. I just want to hear you played well. So if I'm on that side of the fence with that, then I can't be on the other side at the other time. For me, a player on a pitch is a football player. The number that you put next to their name for how many days or years they've been alive doesn't mean shit to me. And I've always said that, and I'm consistent whether it's positive or negative. And do you think look at Harvey Elliott. Like, the kid never played first team football. He was fucking calling Harry Kane a mong. Like,
that doesn't bother me. That doesn't, stuff like that don't bother me. Don't grab the player around the throat. That's what shits me.
This is done in public. Like, honestly, these things happen multiple times a game, and whether you're 16 making your debut or 34-year-old. Like, I don't know if anyone's seen the interview of Gary Neville where they were talking about Jack Wilshere, and he said, he was on loan at Bolton when he was 16, and he played on the left, and obviously Gary Neville was a right back, so they're directly against each other. And he said for the whole game, all Jack done was give him shit. And he said, you know what that told me? He got it. He's got it in him. Like, this guy can make it.
Yeah, no, for sure. But this is the thing.
Yeah, so him saying, you don't know as much, whether it's factually correct or not, he don't know that. But I can't understand. It happens every single game. On a 10-game Premier League weekend, it happens probably 20 times, which is twice per game. But for some reason, people have a problem with that.
But the best thing about Guendouzi is he does have that. It does have a very strong winning attitude, and you can't fault him for that. But the problem is act like that. I'm more than happy with footballers being a prick on the pitch. If anything, I want it more at the club because we haven't had it. However, do it, but then if you've crossed the line, act like a mature adult when it comes to your actual teammates and your manager. Don't act like a bitch like he has.
That's the only bit where I think he's actually done anything wrong. Is he's not. I don't think he should have apologised to Mopé because, believe me, Mopé is one of the biggest pricks in the game anyway. There's no way
I apologise to Mikel and like when Louise told him to apologise to the Arteta. I don't give a shit about Mopé.
I completely agree with you on that. And that, as I said, that's the only negative around that situation for him. And then obviously being a petulant child, he's taken it one step further and not congratulated him on winning the cup and just not been involved at all. So I'm not saying keep him. I would want him gone whether he'd done this shit anyway, because I don't rate him. But I just think the reasons people are saying, he put his hands around someone's neck, seen it a million times before, seen players do a million times worse. Oh, he said he earned more money than him. He's probably said every week of his career. But Mopé came out and done the interview after the game, trying to be a little smart ass. And now suddenly everyone's shocked by it. Like, other people didn't know this happened, which is fair enough. I'm lucky to have met and spoke to quite a few footballers. And I've got friends grew up with who are footballers, so I know what goes on the pitch. So other people either didn't know what's going on, that's fair enough, that's not their fault. Or for some reason, they're just faking outrage about it because they don't like him. And I don't like him, but I'm not going to pretend to be outraged by something I know happens a million times a week.
No, that's fair call. Okay, boys. Fantasy Premier League, FPL Canada, at WGUETW. Yes, you'll need a pen, but find it on our social networks as well. He set up a fantasy league this year because I just couldn't be bothered doing it. I am joining his league. Tony,
By
I
the
believe
way, if anyone's
you've got a
considering
team.
joining, if anyone's considering joining, Tez's team is so shit.
Oh my
Like-
god, it's the funniest thing. It is awful.
You know
Tez,
what I did,
I'll tell
don't
you
you?
what. Read
No,
us
no,
your
no,
team.
you know what I
read
did.
your team out.
Did you press the like random or whatever it is? Like choose
Yeah.
11?
I just pressed auto.
Do you want to read your
Just
team out for
random.
everyone now to listen to?
Oh, I haven't even got it. I'll have a look. It'll change.
Like,
It'll change.
You sent it the other day, and I was like, I don't play it the game, so I'm not going to comment. And also, I thought, like, obviously, like he's been in hospital. Maybe he's still not well. Like, I'm not even going to criticize it because the team is. Maybe I don't know. He's having.
No, I literally done an auto selection. I'll be changing it. Just haven't had time. But I got in there. So the code, the league code, you'll know where to go to find it, don't you? It's on the website.
It's on the official Premier League account.
It's Fantasy Premier League, by the way. Obviously, there's multiple apps that do it, do Premier League, but the app is using Fantasy Premier League.
Yep, and it's XO2BUS. Kiss, love heart, 2 bus. There you go.
He's giving prizes and stuff for winner. So.
Yeah, there's prizes and stuff there. I've already told him. Yeah, but how's his form? Like, Tony, you cheeky bastard, he wasn't going to tell us because, like, Tony was in the DMs with this bloke and he's going to give some prizes, right, just for us Clock and Talk podcasters. So me, Tony, Jack, I presume you'll be in there running.
I'll just let you finish this story and then I'll tell the truth.
Yeah,
carry on, and then I'll come to me and I'll tell you the truth.
I've already submitted my team. I just need to get rid of the City United players because I forgot.
I'm just going to mute Tony.
Yeah.
So anyway, all of us, right? We've all been right for prizes. Like, yeah, Tony, I'm a nice bloke. I'm going to give you some prizes this year just for the Clock and Talk team to be a part of it. Tony's like, oh yeah, no worries, sweet mate. I've made a team. Tony makes his team. Doesn't tell Tez. Doesn't tell Jack. Doesn't tell Schwinn. Tells nobody.
Right. So let's get to the truth. I know most people listening to this podcast don't give a shit, but I'm not having my name slandered. So I'm going to give a prize just for the host. And I said, none of us give a shit. We're probably not going to do our teams after the first week. So if someone is on our team gets sold, they will still be there at the end of the season. So I don't want you to give a prize and spend money on something when none of us give a shit. That was the end of the conversation. I haven't. Whatever other life I told, I haven't done. But now suddenly it's the bullshit Tell just said.
Fair anyway. If you see something coming for free, you're on it.
I've still got to send you that book. Sorry, not you. Golson fan / you.
Did you get his details?
Yeah, he sent them. But we've got obviously we don't have the book, so we've got a contact.
Was it House of Australia in the end?
Was it Australia?
Yeah. So his real name is Perry, and he goes by Pez for short. And he's in Australia. He's got no hair.
What a load of shit.
Roma.
What a load of shit.
What
a load of shit.
Oh, how do you know? How do you know that's not his details? You?
Right, I've muted you. Fucking talking shit. Unbelievable.
Just to get off you being someone else, because there's so many stories I could tell. Rohan Morris, who I believe is Island Gooner Boy, who obviously won the shirt last week. It's on the way. He chose the FA Cup Always Forward shirt. He says, does Guendouzi have a new number? Because George Lewis wore 29 today. The numbers were really weird today. Like, some people kept their numbers and other people didn't. John Jules wore 19 and Pepe's obviously 19.
Do you know how they did it, Tony? I think if you're I think they did it like this. I think if you're a first team regular, you use your number. If you're one of the kids coming in, then you know how it's normally like 1 to however many people are in the squad. Then I think they use that, or to an extent that, for the younger players who didn't have squad numbers, so they just filled them in.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know obviously someone had Guendouzi's, George Lewis had Guendouzi's number. John Jules had Pepe's. Someone else had 20.
Yeah, Mustafi. I got really confused. I didn't think Mustafi was in the squad. When I saw the guy with 20, I was like, what? I was trying to work out if Mustafi somehow was. Yeah, it was very strange.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know how they work out the numbers, but no, just don't ignore what the numbers were, because
It's not happening.
they were just a bit all over. As Jack said, the first team players did have their own numbers. That's probably more to do with shirt sales than anything else.
Okay.
Because if people are buying that shirt, they want to see their player wear it all the time. Like, there's sold however many Tierney 3s, you don't want to see suddenly Tierney wearing number 9.
I remember when I was a lot younger, I was probably like 10 or so at the time. It used to really piss me off when a player would wear the wrong number in pre-season. So I remember there was once a time even when I was younger than that where Henri was wearing 9, and I just remember like it's just frustrating to see. It's very much like a stupid like OCD-esque thing to feel, but it's just annoying.
All right. Okay, boys, we might come back next week. We'll see what's happening, see if there's been any news. We will.
Community Shield on Saturday.
Yes, okay, we will be back next week. Hopefully we've signed a Gabriel or announced Gabriel by then. Hopefully Tony's got his fantasy team sorted and stop slacking mine off. So don't forget to get into that and just keep an eye out for our
very
socials.
quickly for the
Jack, get your shit sorted.
For the Community Shield, if anyone's in London and wants to go to somewhere with fans, Box Park tickets are still available for their main hall. I think they're like 11 quid. I think I'm getting a ticket there to go with a mate. It's like a massive basey room with like loads of little like restaurants and stuff around the side with like a massive communal seating area and like a massive TV. But it's Arsenal only, so the atmosphere will be very good. And they are running a track and trace service, so it's 11 quid I think on the Box Park. If you Google Box Park or Community Shield Arsenal showing, the ticket link will come up. It's about £11.50 or so. So yeah, for anyone who wants to go there, that's probably the best place for atmosphere for the game. Pardon?
Jack is on commission.
I wish I was on commission.
Okay, thank you for listening to the Clock End Talk podcast. You can follow us at @clockend_talk. Thanks, lads. See you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers.